All right. Welcome to the Life and Leverage podcast. Super excited to have on our one of my mentors, Quentin West, the short-term rental guru.
Oh, cool.
Expert.
Yeah, welcome everyone. And Quentin, very nice meeting you. So you are the guru that he's been talking about.
I guess so. I don't really like the word guru, but
I knew that because I did that because of I remember somebody sent you something like oh yeah, and I'm just waiting for some guru to come along. And how did you reply? You said like, cool, I was looking for somebody to call me out on Facebook too or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Oh, hilarious.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Oh man.
I want to find out more about this the Airbnb and how we can make money at it. I've got a unit that is right here at my house, and I've been thinking about switching over from an annual lease to a month to month, and the community that I'm in will allow that. So it may make sense for me to start doing that from an economic standpoint rather than just leasing it out on an annual basis. Yeah. So I want to find out more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to give you advice without knowing exactly where it's at. But typically on a short to midterm basis for a furnished property, you're going to make way more money than if you just run it long term, just because you're offering a more valuable service. So I'd love to check that out for you when we get off the show.
Sure. Sounds good.
What's the city though, Randall?
I'm in Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay.
So it's the state capital. So we're going to have an influx during season, what they call when the session is going on for the government. And then you have influxes with big games for FSU and then FAMU. So, it's a college town. It's a state capital college town. It's not like being in Orlando or some other place that is much more desirable, I guess you'd say. But
gotcha.
There could be something that I want to look at. Take a shot at this and see if it makes any sense.
Absolutely.
So that's the city I'm in.
Okay.
It's a long answer.
It's all right.
I mean, Quentin, I wanted to, I know me and you already talked about this, and Randall is a longtime colleague and friend, someone that I looked up to a lot, and so that's why he's on here. Oh, thank you. And we always just have a lot of fun, man. We just talk about we both trade. Yeah. We both trade and are in the financial markets and stuff like that. And then, like you said, we just talk about life too, because we just get along so well. So. Yeah. But
and I've had and also the real estate background that I've had, things have changed. You used to, buy and flip. You can't really buy and flip anymore. They're out there, but they're harder to find, and all kinds of different things with real estate is out there, but it's just few and far between.
Yeah. I mean, I think social media has made it a lot more competitive too. Just more people knowing about it, the information being more available, people selling coaching. So it is becoming more competitive. But I think the best thing you can do if you want to do flips is learn how to source lists and find off-market properties. Instead of going on market with realtors, you'll have a lot more and better results that way, because there's always going to be people in distressed situations, either foreclosures or bankruptcies or divorces, or people that are upside down in their homes.
Yeah, help people out. I mean, literally, it's helping them out of a bad situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Trying to anyway. Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. What got you into it in the first place, Quinn? Like, how did you decide that this is what I want to get into?
Yeah, it was never something I wanted to get into.
What?
Really?
Never something I want. Never something I even thought about. I had a house that I was living in, and I was in the middle of a transition between working in construction and getting my real estate license. I got my license, and I thought things would just take off. Just being the over optimistic and confident person I am, and it didn't work that way. I was sitting at a desk alone, trying to find people for 3 months straight, and didn't make any sales. And so I had this house that I couldn't afford anymore. And just by chance, I met somebody, or I met somebody for coffee, is a longtime friend, high school friend. And he was talking about a house that he had inherited, and he threw it up on Airbnb, and it started making like 4,000 a month in gross revenue.
Wow.
It's like, well, if this dude can do that, then surely I can. And so I just moved back in with mom and dad, threw that place up on Airbnb. I just wanted to make my payment, and it profited $1,000 the first month. And then the second month it profited $1,500 a month. And then it kept doing 1,500 for like all through the summer. And then I started.
So you're netting 1,500 each and every month.
Yep. Every single month. Every single month. So I started trying to figure out ways to buy properties with zero money down. I was looking into subject to all those crazy things that, investors talk about. And I never thought any of that was possible for me. It just seemed too complicated. So I never really tried. And then somebody started talking about arbitrage. We could rent a place and then sublease it on Airbnb. It's like, well, I can sign a lease. Like it's got to be harder than this. And so I just immediately went to Zillow, started looking for properties just like the one I already had. And within 7 days, I signed up my first lease. We put furniture in it, a bunch of used furniture off Facebook Marketplace. And the very first month, it profited $1,200.
Wow. So the arbitrage, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that really don't understand that concept. Do you mind going into it and explaining that a little bit?
Yeah. So the word arbitrage, if we break it down to the base level, just means you're taking one product, adding something to it, and then charging a premium for it or a higher rate. You're playing the middleman. So people do this with like Amazon FBA, where they buy wholesale and then they sell it to consumers for more money. We're just doing the same thing. We're signing a 12-month lease for, say, $1,500 a month. We're furnishing the place, and then we're renting it for $3,500 a month. And after all our expenses, our rent, utilities, cleaning, consumables, we're making anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month in profit.
Don't you get pushback from those property owners, though, as far as signing that lease agreement?
So some we do,
and then you're subletting everything.
Yeah, we're subletting. So we get some pushback from owners, but a lot of them do like the model, and they end up giving us more properties after we sign the first one with them, because they just see how easy it is to work with us, how on time we are with rent, how we take care of things, and they're just really happy with the whole process.
Cool.
What would you say?
Success.
What would you say to owners right now that didn't know about this and then would be hesitant to do it? What is something that you can teach them that they probably didn't know about if you were to do that for them? Well, like what kind of benefits they would gain from it that they may not know?
Yeah, so the biggest one, or two things I guess, would be that they're more profitable because we're renting long term. We're not a family that's growing and then we need a bigger house for the next year. So we're renting for 5-year plan minimum. Some we plan on.
Okay, so your lease agreement, excuse me, let me interrupt you. So your lease agreement is for 5 years with this?
No, so we start out with 1 or 2 years, and then if things go well, then we continue extending. But what I was talking about is a landlord's biggest expense is turnover, which means one tenant moves out, and now they got to find another tenant. They got to repaint, redo the flooring, carpet, whatever it might be. By us renting and planning on a long-term relationship, they no longer lose that money. The average mom and pop owner, it's going to take them 30 days to get another tenant in there after everything's said and done. So if the rent's $1,500, we're saving them a bare minimum of $1,500 a year just by them not having to turn over the property.
Go out and release it. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. The second thing, just them being more profitable with repairs. So we fix anything under $200. So they're not having to come out and fix toilets. They're not having to come out and fix small stuff on the HVAC system, any plumbing, all that stuff we're doing. So we have some owners, they haven't heard from us in 3 years. All we do is
they
reach
love
out.
You, man.
Yeah, they love us. Exactly. They love us because the only time they hear from us is when it's time to renew. Then we talk through, hey, are we going to raise rent this year? Are we going to do this? How's the property look? And then that's it. One conversation. And we also offer insurance on the properties. So if something happens and one of our guests damages the place, they have Airbnb's coverage, which covers up to $1 million or maybe $2 million at this point. They have our insurance, and then they have their personal insurance. So they have 3 levels of insurance where their property is taken care of. Where a typical tenant would only have one.
Writing it for you? You know, what type of policy is that?
So it's dedicated to arbitrage operators. It's not like a generic policy. It's not a regular renter's policy. It's for someone like us that's renting a place and then subleasing it to another tenant.
That is definitely
like a short-term. It's a short-term rental kind of insurance. Or?
Yeah, it's a short-term policy. Yeah.
Well, obviously it's not super expensive, or you wouldn't be offering it.
No, it's really cheap. Actually, it's like, I think we have 25 units on one policy. It's like $2,400 a year.
Do you use umbrella coverage as well?
No, we just use that. We just use that policy. It covers the dwelling. It covers our income that we lost if the place burns down or we can't use it. It covers liability if anybody falls and gets hurt. So that pretty much covers all of our bases.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And then doesn't it take, like, for me, my short-term rental tax that I would have to pay, usually Airbnb covers that.
Yeah. So they pay it for you,
which is pretty sweet too.
Yeah. It comes out of your income, but they pay it for you off the platform.
So Quentin, are your properties all in one city, or are you all over?
We're all over North Carolina. So we have properties.
You're in the Carolinas.
Yeah. We have properties in 5 or 6 cities now.
Cool.
Any advice to people that want to get started with arbitrage? We have listeners and students that listen to us from all over the world.
All over the world,
yeah. The biggest thing when getting into anything new is just hire a mentor. Like if you have the money, then you definitely should. And I don't say that just because I coach. I hire a coach with anything new that I do, whether it's marketing, whether it's social media, PR, sales, anything that I do, I hire a coach just because it expedites your process. Like, you're going to save so much money by the things that they'll help you avoid or improve that the coaching will pay for itself within the first year max.
Absolutely. Or save you from losing it in our case.
Yeah, exactly. What's the price range that you're looking at for a coach? If you want to go out and where would we find these coaches? Where's the other aspect of it? I know you're one, and you certainly would work with people. Michael, are you coaching with this yet? Are you doing it yet?
Nope. Still just listening to this guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably 1,000 coaches in the Airbnb space, but you got to be super careful because some people, they've just picked up on the fad of Airbnb and people wanting to learn it, and they're starting to coach without having any experience. So, I mean, there's a couple of coaches in the industry I would recommend. Just make sure you figure out their experience, and if they can't show you their personal numbers and their properties, and they're not offering free information on their social media, then they're probably not legitimate. So like us, We have 39 units. We've had up to 47 at one point. We're prioritizing quality now over quantity, so we don't have as many. But with that, we're able to make over $100,000 a month. I work 5 minutes to an hour a day on my portfolio. And so that gives me plenty of time to dedicate to my students, make sure that they're succeeding at every level. And we work with people like Michael I'm in North Carolina, he's in France. So anywhere where they offer Airbnb, it's the same concepts. The platform works the same anywhere. They use the same algorithm. It's a US-based company. So we can help and definitely help you avoid some mistakes and expedite that success process.
Well, especially with the arbitrage aspect of it, just knowing what insurance agents to contact. Each state I know is different, but if you're dealing with the same type of stuff that over in overseas in Europe, do those insurers work over there, or are the property owners any different overseas versus what we have here in the States?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be different. Even state to state, property owners act differently. Like in our state, it's very hard to get a property management company to agree to the model. For some reason, they're just stuck in their zone. They're stuck in their box. But single owners, like mom and pop managers, they have no problem. And we have great relationships with them. In other states like Arizona, we used to have several units in Arizona. I mean, I could pop out 100 of those at a time if I wanted to. It's just so easy to get properties out there. That's one reason why it's exploded in that market so quick.
I would think the property management companies would be all over this, like white on rice, man. I mean, they could arbitrage themselves. They could do the same stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they could. It's just different in every state.
Interesting. I know some states require that property management be licensed, have licensure.
Yeah. North Carolina's that way. So if you want to manage anybody's property, short term or long term, that includes co-hosting, which is just Airbnb's word for managing. You have to be licensed in North Carolina.
And the process to do that, and that as a coach, that's what you would help with whatever state that you're in, right?
Yeah, so we don't know all the laws in every single state. We don't stay up to date on that, but we can definitely tell you how to find that. That way you're operating within the law.
Cool.
Well, and then you can help them find and know how to reach out to owners for arbitrage, not only for that kind of stuff, but you go through that part and teach them what needs to be done, how to kind of say it and explain it to these people, because it's in any kind of phone sales or anything like that where you're just kind of reaching out and saying, hey, automatically people are pushed off right from the get-go. So then you kind of got to allow them to get off of that and listen to you. But honestly, what if you were to listen to somebody that is doing arbitrage, it's such a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to search for people to consistently rent out your place, like you explained, but also all the insurance, everything's covered, and throughout the time, it saves you so much of your own time, right? Like there's just not much that you really have to do if you get in a good relationship with somebody like yourself or me, right? Or Randall, it doesn't matter. If you get into a good relationship with somebody like that and they're like, hey man, I got everything basically covered for you. I'll just expect a check in the mail every month. Like, and that's what every owner wants in the first place, right? That's all. Yeah. That's all they really care about, as well as long as their property's taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. So, if I wanted to get involved in this, right, from a standpoint of getting some homes and building up an arbitrage, what kind of budget do I need to set up or think about in doing this?
It's a good question, Randall. Very good question.
I recommend anywhere from 8 to 15,000, just depending on your market. I mean, some markets like California, you're going to pay 3-4,000 a month for rent, uh, and that's the bare minimum. So 8 to 15 grand, and you could set up a place in most any market, especially if you budget shop. That Facebook Marketplace is a great resource if you have the time. Um, but when you get at a certain level, it just becomes kind of counterintuitive to pick up every piece off Facebook Marketplace unless you have a team that does it for you. So now we buy everything from Wayfair or Amazon, Big Lots. We'll source some local stores for beds mostly because those are used the most. That's what breaks more often than not. So we can buy some reinforced beds so that they're really sturdy and we're not in there the next month fixing a bed.
Fixing the thing again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and the budget that I'm talking about is, just cash that you need available to you for those types of things, and taking care of coaching, all of the expenses, that potential expenses that you could incur. Of course, you're not going to be able to cover everything, but 8 to 15 is what you're saying,
Yeah,
to be able
yeah.
to start this thing.
If you have 15 grand, we can get you in coaching and have you a place set up within 30 to 60 days in almost
Wow.
any market.
What are
And
some
then
interesting ways that if you didn't have that right on hand that you would recommend to people that are like, all right, that's awesome, man, but I'm not even close to having 15 grand there right now. I mean, especially
Yeah.
you're a young guy, man,
Yeah.
how did you get it started, with while you were broke at that time, when you were looking for
Yeah.
that house?
Yeah. So I had a credit card. I didn't have money when I started. I had a credit card and I just sent myself an invoice from my LLC through QuickBooks and paid that with the credit card. And then I withdrew the cash and then used that for my deposit and first month's rent. And then I used the rest of the cash. I think it was like 6,000 in total to just pieces off of Facebook Marketplace and buy some stuff on Amazon or Dollar General or whatever I could to piece things together. I mean, I didn't
I
have a
like
ton
your
of money.
concept in using other people's monies, if you can.
Yeah.
Utilize other people's monies rather than having to dig into your own pocket and do
Yep.
it. And if you've got good credit, it's not hard to find some place that will, the interest rates that you're going to pay for it can be kind of high, but it could definitely get you started and utilizing other people's monies. And then as you get that income coming in, you're going to use less and less of that credit card, or you're going to pay it off rather than accruing that interest that you'd have to accrue from time
Yeah.
to time. Cool. Makes
Absolutely.
sense. Makes a lot of sense, especially if you're like Michael, you said, and you, Quentin, you really didn't have the cash to lay out. I mean, but
Yeah.
you're smart in going back home and living with mom and dad.
Yeah.
and
I had to swallow my pride.
Well, true story. I had moved out, and I had decided I wanted to buy some land. Now, I didn't realize at the time buying land is like an alligator. It's just keep it eating at you and eating at you. It's not going to benefit you. But what happened with me is that the value of that land went up. And when I bought it, before I bought it, I said, "Hey, mom and dad, here's what I want to do. And I want to buy some land, but I can't buy the land and be out in an apartment. Can I come home?" And of course they said yes. And so, long story short, after I got married, 3 years later, we sold that land and bought our first house, and then been going ever since. So doing what you did takes a lot to say, "Hey, I need some help. Do you mind helping me?"
Yeah.
That's very, I applaud you for doing that. And if you can do that, some people don't have that ability though. Some people
Yeah.
don't have good families that they can rely upon. So you're
Yeah,
very, very,
absolutely.
very fortunate in that regard. So it's really cool how you put this together. So you basically you didn't have two nickels to rub together and turned it into what kind of I'm not trying to be nosy, but I mean, you've turned it into a very profitable situation for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cash flow every month in, month out.
Yeah. Yep.
How long did it take you after you got
It's a good question. Yeah.
that first one to start adding on and it like to get to a point where you could add on a second and then a third and then to the point that you are with 39 now?
39. Awesome, man.
Yeah. So I started mid-November of 2019. And by the end of 2020, I was cash flowing $14,000 a month. And then it's been 4 years since November of 2019. So,
oh wow, man, I didn't know that. So like when you were starting to get big, the majority of it was during COVID.
yeah, pretty much.
Wow. How did that I mean, obviously you don't really know. Yeah, it's very impressive. Obviously you don't know much about it before, but like, I mean, you had that solid year before that. How much did that affect it, or did it actually help you?
I don't know if it affected it really or not. I guess I didn't really know what to expect. So COVID happened and I was like, great, this is where it ends, you know?
Right.
We had like a 2-week span where it was like nothing because I mean they're shutting down the world. And all of a sudden things start picking up again. And then they were hotter than ever. I mean, people were messaging me saying, hey, we got to get out of our house. We want to stay for 2 weeks. It's like, okay. And so we just started ramping up again. And then we were hotter than ever. And then after COVID, people had that revenge travel. So we were even hotter then. And so I just used that for fuel and just kept opening up as many as I possibly could. Because, I mean, I didn't know what else to do.
I remember I have a long time student and client and overall friend, but I remember she was telling me during COVID, she was like, she owns a bunch of units, and she was like, I've been doing this for so long now. She's like, and I feel like a rookie. She's like, I've lost all of this business. I can't get people to pay. And I don't know what I'm going to do right now. And that I remember for a lot of homeowners and people that were doing, rentals at that time, that was a hard time for them. Whereas for you, on the other hand, you went in a different direction that could not only did it help you, but it could have helped those people if they would have listened to you when you called them and said, hey, how about I just make sure that your rent is paid every single month, and then I'll take care of it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were plenty of people where their rent wasn't getting paid. So, I mean, looking back, I probably could have even tripled our business during that time by going to those people and saying, hey, like, you got people that aren't paying, we'll take over, give us 1 or 2 months free rent. After that, we'll be good to go. That'll give us, time to get things in place and save up more money and open up more units. We could even sold units and just gone about it that way. But, there was so much turmoil and I didn't have enough experience. I mean, I was 22. So I didn't have experience in anything really enough to know what was going to happen or even to guess what could happen. So
that's so cool, though.
Do you have a checklist? Do you have a checklist of what you do when you call these people? How do you get your leads? What source are you going to try to build up your arbitrage?
Yeah, we're just using Zillow. We have a script. I have a virtual assistant in the Philippines. She does all our outreach, and then we close properties that way. She'll cross-reference all the properties to the data that we pull from AirDNA, make sure that they're profitable. Then she'll shoot them over to me, and then I'll check them one more time and then close them if I'm good with the deal.
So what are you looking for when you're qualifying this stuff?
Just profit numbers. As long as now it was 1,000 a month originally. Now we're 1,500 a month minimum. Just because I just don't want a ton of average units. I want, units that make
better than average,
1,500 to 3,000 or 4,000 a month. Like that last month, we had several that made 4,000 a month in profit. October was a great month. We're not going to do that every month, but those are really nice units. And if we can have 50 of those instead of 100 units that make 1,000 a month, then we're going to crush it.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
So now, when you're going on to add a new property or a new listing, obviously you're staying pretty much in North Carolina, but what are you looking at? Like what's something that you look at first and say like, okay, this looks like a pretty good area that I want to be in because it's got this or this. But how do you kind of go through that and determine where you want to start and what would be the ideal area for you?
So an ideal area would be a smaller market outside of a major city that has around 1 million people and doesn't have a ton of competition. So one way that you can look at your competition is on AirDNA. You can see a number of units, but there's also a percentage that you'll see of people that have their listings on Airbnb and VRBO. If it's over like 15, 20%, then you know that there's a lot of professional hosts in that market. If it's below that, then you know that it's pretty much untapped because you have a lot of mom and pops that have extra homes or inherited a house that just threw it up on Airbnb. And that's where you can come in a market and dominate. I mean, that's like our market a couple of years ago. Like I was really one of the first people that ever even opened here. I mean, we had less than 300 units. And so when my units went up, I mean, I literally was taking pictures of an unmade bed. Like that was the only picture I had. And they were booking within 8 hours.
What?
So, yeah. Yeah. The second property I ever finished, because I didn't have the money to buy all the furniture, I just bought a couple beds. I threw them in the rooms, took pictures and listed them and just told myself I'd figure it out. And the place booked within 8 hours. And they were checking in within 7 days, and I had no furniture in the house. I still had the tile, the backsplash. It needed paint. It needed flooring in some rooms. The HVAC still wasn't in. I had 19 people there working the day that they checked in. I paid for their lunch. I sent them $50 to go get lunch or dinner just so they give us an extra hour. And then I literally ushered everybody out the back door, walked the keys out the front door, handed them to them, and then they stayed in the house. So that's how tight things were.
That is so cool. That's so cool.
I don't think I'd want to be under that pressure. Oh yeah, my God.
Yeah. I mean, we had people cleaning the gutters out the day of, putting the last bits of tile on the backsplash, throwing some paint on the walls, finishing up the HVAC. I mean, everything came together, but it was the tightest property we've ever done by far.
Was that your first one?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, second arbitrage. So third overall unit.
So what's your total in units now?
39.
39. What's your goal?
So how long?
Do you have a goal? Sorry, Fabs.
No, you're good.
So I don't have a number of unit goal. In 2024, I would love to get to $1 million a year in net profit. So that'll be like 66 more units. Now, whether that's more co-host listings or places that we own or boutique hotels, I don't really care. I just want to hit that number, and then I'll probably sell the company, honestly. I love the hospitality business, but I think boutique hotels are the next thing for me, just because it's right in line with experience I already have. It's stuff that we can own and now have an asset that is adding to my net worth instead of just cash flow. And it's a pretty even trade-off.
Cool.
That's amazing.
It is an amazing thing that you've put together.
Thank you.
And you just fell into it, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yep.
I I mean, I was the kid that was going down the road, driving 8 hours a day and watching Bigger Pockets. I just wanted to be a real estate investor. And so I learned a lot over that, but it gave me the confidence to do a unit as soon as I got the opportunity. I just didn't have the money yet. And then I found a way that I could do it by using the property I already had. And then just getting creative over time. I mean, I've done several seller finance deals. We're doing arbitrage in a warehouse. So it's not limited to just residential homes. It's just a great model where if you get creative, you can build an empire.
And the model is not being impacted by the governments yet. Wait till they can get their hands on it,
Yeah.
and they so they can get a piece of that pie.
Yeah.
Depends on the city though.
Yeah, it depends on the city.
Some of the cities it is being taken on. Like
San Francisco, I would imagine.
Dallas, New York.
Dallas definitely is. Yeah.
Phoenix just started implementing regulations. Their supply quadrupled within 12 months, so they have like a big problem now.
Paris.
And what's the problem? What is that problem that's happening?
Mostly the driving up of rental rates. Since arbitrage, people are coming in and paying like $100, $200 extra per month to rent a unit. And then they're not performing. And so now they're losing that. And that's impacting apartment owners. And it's impacting hotels. It's impacting the people that want homes to live in. So if it's not regulated in some way, I think it's a bad thing. But overall, I'm against the regulations. I think we should have pretty free flowing business operations, but I do agree with like permits and maybe some standard of operation where, Joe Blow can't just open up a unit or 100 if he has the money, because that's what people have been doing. They've been opening up a ton of units at once. And then they're failing because they don't know how to operate or market their property properly. And it's impacting everyone around them, not just their business personally.
Gotcha. Well, it makes a lot of, thanks for sharing that, because a novice like myself thinking about this saying, well, really don't want regulation, but yeah, you probably do want some. Because, like you say, somebody that does have the money gets this idea in their head, and they just come in and just 100, 200 units, whatever they can afford to do. It could create a nightmare.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Quinn.
I was going to say a guy in New York, he went to jail because he was opening up arbitrage units and then just not paying the rent. So he was locking them up. And since New York's not a landlord-friendly state, they couldn't evict him. And so he was just running up all these bills for rent owed and keeping the cash. So I think he racked up like $5 million in rent that he owed, and he never paid.
And went to jail for it.
And then they can go.
Yeah. He went to prison for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my question was, so like in Paris and I think Bordeaux, maybe Nice or something like that, the big cities over here, but it all started in Paris. What they're doing is they're making the regulation that you can only rent your home out. I don't think it's even for arbitrage. It just depends on where you're situated. So people inside of Paris can only rent it out 120 days out of the year. Is that, and I've heard the reason for it is because hotels were complaining that their numbers were down and stuff like that. So does that kind of regulation, is that coming through Airbnb? Or is that coming from like the government pushing back on some different things?
That's coming from hotels lobbying together and implementing new bills because they have,
and then making that rule. But does that rule come directly from Airbnb saying that you can't do it anymore, or somebody going on Airbnb or Airbnb having to push those rules into play.
Yeah, it's the government implementing the laws, and then Airbnb has to abide by them. So, like um, in Philadelphia, we had a guy in the program, and they implemented new regulations, and he didn't have his permit number listed on his listing, so they shut him down until he got the permit numbers.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what is in the U.S. Where like what would be the best states to get started in something like this right now, in your professional opinion?
I mean, it's hard to say because each state, even if they have regulations in some cities, they still have other cities that could crush it. Like in Texas, Dallas just outlawed them, but I was looking at a market in Austin.
Wait, time out. They outlawed Airbnbs in Dallas?
Yeah, for single family homes.
Rentals.
Yeah, short-term rentals in general. Yeah. But I was looking at a market in Austin, and the units there, I mean, you can operate there, and they were making $2,000-3,000 a month in profit. And I just did that just as an experiment to make a video. I was like, dang, Austin market looks pretty good. And then also New York. There's a market in, I think it's Long Island, and the numbers there look insane, like $4,000 or $5,000 a month in profit, if you can find a property that will allow you to do arbitrage. So it's really hard to say. I mean, I can't really nail down a market like that.
Well, let me ask you this then. So if I was in college and I wanted to take on doing arbitrage, right? Or something like this to be able to give me side hustle, give me something to grow at. Where would I want to start? Like what would I be looking at? Obviously I'm in a college town, but having that drive, a lot of people have that drive at that age, to get out and go push it like yourself. And a lot of them aren't in major cities, or you know what I mean? They're maybe in a college town, but it may not be that big. What do you think about getting started on something like that?
I would say look at your direct market first, where you live. Look at that first. And if that's not a possibility, if you just can't make money there or everything's outlawed, then start looking at the surrounding cities. And if nothing within like an hour to hour and a half drive makes sense, then you might as well just start looking at other states, because it's the same thing at that point. So then I would start branching out and looking at other cities and states, and look at like smaller markets. Like I was saying earlier, AirDNA has a feature now where you can search for states, and then look at the cities ranked by income. And then you can take that income number and compare it to the cost of renting a property in that area. So if it costs you, $2,000 a month to rent the place, but it says $7,000 a month on average in revenue, then that's probably a killer area to do an Airbnb. Then you just start looking at the supply of rental properties and see if you can start reaching out to some people. And if you get some hits, then it's a good opportunity. And then I would just compare that split, that gap between your total income and your total expenses, to see how much profit you can make, compare 5 or 10 markets, and then make a decision on where you want to go. If you have one market that looks like it'll make more money, but there's only 2 or 3 units available at a time, then I would look at another market as well. That way you're not so limited by reaching out to 3 people at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Advice.
Yeah.
That's great advice. And how I know the answer to this question because I've been through it with you, but I think it's important for people that are listening and that are truly interested in doing this. How much time do you think you can save somebody, in all honesty, if they were to, just have a conversation and start working with you and follow the structure that you built? How much time do you think you could get them from a place of not knowing anything, get it started, to a place where they're actually profitable and making money?
How much money do they have to start with?
It's a good question.
Zero. Let's take an assumption.
Zero.
They've got zero. They got good credit, but they get maybe you've got $1,000 in their hands. What could they do?
So if they'll actually hustle and do what I tell them to do, 6 months. That's until they'll actually do something to get profitable, to actually be making money. And in a year, they'll be doing Airbnb full time, no doubt. Because I mean, I'll come up with anything to make money. I was a kid at 10 years old knocking doors trying to sell moon pies, so I can make money. Now, if you ask me to do accounting or something like that, that's not my strong suit. But if you ask me to come up with $10,000 by the end of the week, I'll figure something out. So if they'll listen to me, 6 months, we'll figure out how to get them into some networking groups locally, figure out what's available. Then they can start partnering with some people to manage or co-host for them, as long as there's no regulations against that, like them not having to have a real estate license or something like that. Or I'll have them do some side jobs. I mean, when I had no money, I was doing things like reaching out to people that had distressed properties and saying, hey, I see this property that you have. It obviously needs work. Here's what it would look like on the market today. We could sell it for 140. I saw you bought it for 60 grand 2 years ago. It's just been sitting here. So how about this? You give me $20,000 in a budget. I'll do all the work, or hire the team to do all the work to rehab the place. And then when we sell it, we'll split the profits. I've done 2 of those. I made over $14,000 on each one, where I had no money at all involved. And I really only visited the places 3 times. One to look at them, one to hire the team members, the handymen and painters and everything else, and then a final walkthrough.
So you mentioned something a second ago about having a real estate license. That is amazing. It truly is amazing. But something that piqued my interest was when you said, do you have to disclose if you're an agent? In Florida, you do. If you're a licensed agent in any arena of what you're trying to do, you have to disclose that to them. Do you find that, are you an agent?
I am an agent, and you do have to disclose that whenever you're operating in any real estate capacity. You do have to tell them, hey, I'm an agent, but I'm not operating under my real estate license. That way you're operating as a business, like my business, the Cozy Cosmo. We're renting the place from you. I'm not using my license during this transaction, but I'm obligated to tell you.
Interesting. Didn't know that part. But if you're not an agent, that's what I was going to say.
It doesn't matter.
See, that's a misnomer. A lot of people think that, I got to get my real estate license. Actually, you don't. If you really want to do this, you're better off not having a quote unquote licensure in that particular state.
Yeah. I have gone back and forth between just dropping mine, because there's a lot of things that are a downside with having your license than if you just didn't have it at all.
From that aspect, I've had my broker's license now for years. I'm not going to give it up now, but I just have to disclose to people that you are a licensed broker or a licensed agent or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
Man, I'm telling you, what you just, from going from 1,000, you can take somebody that if they got $1,000 and they're willing to work.
Yep. Work and learn and actually educate themselves. Yeah. And not just.
So what would, not necessarily your fee, but what is a coaching fee? How do you get, how do they pay you? Do you wait until they start making profits and you take it out of that? Or what do you do?
So we charge an upfront fee. Pretty much everything we do now is custom. So if they want to reach out to me on Instagram, Q Deals Homes, I'll talk with them about what we can do and how we can help. Some people come in with no properties. Some people come in with 3, 4 properties. They're losing money. They need to optimize what they have or just drop them in total. But that's their babies. They put all the furniture up and decorated the place, and the last thing they want to do is let them go. And sometimes it's important to get a third party opinion like mine, where I can go, hey, like, this place isn't making money and it's never going to make money. So you need to drop it. Let's put the furniture in storage. We'll find another place and then we'll start again. And so, like, I literally this past week had somebody reach out to me. They're like, hey, I found a place for rent. They're willing to do arbitrage. These are the numbers. And like, most people would just said, okay, congratulations. Like, go ahead. Cool. Because he wasn't one of my clients, just a random guy that reached out. And I said, what's the address? Because I know that area decently well. Let me check it out for you. I looked at it and it made half of what he anticipated the market making, because it had a couple properties that AirDNA was using as comps that were outliers. Like, they were brand new builds. They had pools, stuff like that. So it skewed the results. And if he would have signed that property like he was planning, then he would have lost a ton of money.
It was a good thing he spoke with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which brings me to my next point. What's the easiest? And I'll leave it in the description down below for everybody. But number one, people that are thinking about reaching out to you, where do they reach out to you? What's the easiest way to get in touch with you? But also, what type of people do you think would be your ideal student to be able to come and help you, besides the fact that they're willing to put in the work?
Yeah. The best place to reach me is Q Deals Homes on Instagram. The ideal person that we want to work with is somebody that has at least $10,000 or they have properties already, at least one property already. That's our ideal person, because if you have absolutely no money, then just to be honest, you can't afford to pay us or start a property. So I'm happy to give you some tips to get things going and either fix your credit. And like, I'll happily do that for free. You're welcome to reach out to me. But there's really no sense in us working together unless you have some kind of money or credit saved up. Because like, I've noticed more often than not, it can hurt a person more than help them if they don't have their life straight in any way, or they don't have a little money saved up and now they're trying to start another business.
Very true. Very true. Well, this has been amazing, man. Quentin, I can't thank you enough for coming on. And Randall, Rand the man, always good seeing you and
Dude,
catching up. Anyway.
You're awesome too. This is an awesome, fun show that we have, and I call it a show. That's what it is, I guess. But we have people like Quentin come on and give this type of feedback that's, you can't even put a value on it. I mean, it's invaluable. I mean, it's fabulous. And if people will apply it and apply themselves to do something different, especially if they're wanting to do something different, this is a great thing to do. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it
is, man. I mean, I wish I would have known this when I was your age. So anybody listening to it, this is such an amazing opportunity.
Me too.
All right, fellas. Quentin, again, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, guys.